Lesson 3.4, using the quadratic formula. How do you solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula? Go ahead and look at your independent practice problems. We are being asked to solve this problem using the quadratic formula. It is not equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, you cannot start it yet. You need to make it equal to 0 first. So we're going to subtract the 12x and we're going to add the 4. So I have 25x squared minus 20x plus 4 equaling 0. Now that it equals 0, and I have an x squared x non-x, I can use the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. To be able to use this, I needed to identify my ABCs. A is always the value in front of x squared, so a is 25. B is always the value in front of the x, so my b is a negative 20. And c is always the lonely number with no variable. My c is 4. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it using my colors. So we're going to go ahead and simplify. The opposite of negative 20 is 20, plus or minus. The entire negative 20 raised to the second power is 400. We have negative 4 times 25 times 4, which is minus 400. All over 2 times 25 is 50. So we have x equaling 20 plus or minus the square root of 400 minus 400 is 0, all over 50. So what's the square root of 0? Square root of 0 is 0. So I have 20 being added and subtracted to 0 all over 50. So we have two problems. We have 20 plus 0 all over 50, and we have 20 minus 0 all over 50. 20 plus 0 is 20, so this is 20 all over 50, which we need to simplify, and it simplifies down to 2/5. This is also 20 over 50, which simplifies down to 2/5. So we do have two answers, but they're the same one answer in the end. Our next problem, we're being asked to solve using the quadratic formula. This is not equal 0 yet, so we cannot solve it. So I need to first make it equal to 0. So I have x squared plus an 8x plus 41 equal to 0. Now that it equals 0, and I have x squared x non-x, I can use x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But to be able to use the quadratic formula, I need to identify my ABCs. A is the number in front of x squared, it's 1. B is the number in front of x, it's 8. C is a lonely number with no letter, it is 41. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it with my colors. So I have x equaling the opposite of 8, which is a negative 8 plus or minus. 8 to the second power is 64. Negative 4 times 1 times 40 is a negative 164. All of this divided by 2. So if x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 164 is negative 100 all over 2. I need to take the square root of a negative 100. This is x equals negative 8 plus or minus 10i all over 2. Because the 8 can be divided by 2 and the 10 can be divided by 2, I can simplify all of this by 2. So my final answer is negative 8 divided by 2 was a negative 4. We have the plus or minus. 10 divided by 2 was 5. So this is 4 plus or minus of 5i. Your last independent practice problem, this needs to equal 0. So I'm going to add the 9x to each side to make the problem equal to 0. So 0 equals a 9x squared plus 30x plus 25. Now that it equals 0, and I have an x squared, x, non-x, I can use the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. To be able to use that, I have to have my ABCs. A is the number in front of x squared, so a is 9. B is the number in front of x, so b is 30. C is the lonely number without any letter, so C is 25. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the problem using my colors. So I have x being the opposite of 30, which is a negative 30, plus or minus the square root of 30 to the second power is 900. Negative 4 times 9 times 25 is a minus 900 all over 18. This is negative 30 plus or minus the square root of 0 all over 18. The square root of 0 is 0, so I end up having negative 30 divided by 18, which I need to simplify. Both of these numbers can be divided by 2, so I have a negative 15 all over 9. Both of those numbers can divide by 3, so I have a negative 5 all over 3. So I end up getting one answer. It's negative 5 over 3.